The story about the lost baby elephant. Once upon a time, in a dense forest, there lived a large herd of elephants. Among them was a little elephant named Parchi, who was very curious and adventurous. He always liked to explore new places and venture out on his own. One day, Parchi wandered too far away from his family and got lost in the forest. As he walked through the dense forest, Parchi noticed that the sky had turned dark and ominous. The wind had picked up, and he could hear the sound of thunder in the distance. He knew that a storm was coming, and he needed to find shelter quickly. Parchi searched for a place to hide but couldn't find anything. Suddenly, the storm hit, and the rain started pouring down heavily. Parchi was scared and didn't know what to do. He cried out for his family, but nobody answered. The storm continued for several hours, and Parchi was getting weaker and weaker. He was cold, hungry, and scared. He knew that he couldn't survive for long on his own. Suddenly, he saw a small light in the distance. He followed the light and reached a small cottage. The door was open, and he walked inside, hoping to find some shelter. Inside the cottage, he found a young girl named Mia. Mia was surprised to see an elephant inside her house but quickly realized that he was lost and needed her help. She offered Parchi some food and water, which he gratefully accepted. Mia also lit a fire to keep him warm and dry. Over the next few days, Parchi stayed with Mia, who took care of him and helped him recover from his ordeal. She gave him fruits and vegetables to eat and made sure he had plenty of water to drink. Parchi was grateful to Mia for her kindness and began to trust her. One day, while they were out for a walk, Parchi saw his family in the distance. He was so happy to see them but was afraid to go back to them. He didn't want to leave Mia, who had become his friend and savior. Mia could see how much Parchi missed his family and decided to help him reunite with them. Together, they set out on a journey to find Parchi's family. They crossed rivers and climbed mountains, encountering many dangers and obstacles along the way. But with Mia's help, Parchi was able to overcome them all. Finally, after several weeks of traveling, they found Parchi's family. They were overjoyed to see him and welcomed him back with open arms. Mia was happy to see Parchi reunited with his family but also a little sad that their adventure was over. Parchi and his family thanked Mia for her help and bid her farewell. Parchi knew that he would never forget Mia, who had saved his life and helped him find his way back home. As they walked away, Parchi looked back at Mia and trumpeted a final goodbye. From that day on, Parchi became known as the elephant who survived a storm and found a friend in a young girl. And Mia became known as the girl who saved an elephant and helped him find his way home. Their story became famous among the people who lived in the forest, and they remembered it for years to come. Parchi and Mia's story continued to be talked about in the forest for many years after they parted ways. Many animals were inspired by the bond that they had formed and the way they had worked together to overcome the challenges they faced. Parchi, for his part, remained close to his family after being reunited with them. He was grateful to have them back in his life, but he never forgot the kindness that Mia had shown him. He often thought about her and wondered how she was doing. Mia, on the other hand, had returned to her cottage after Parchi left. She missed him and the adventure they had shared, but she knew that he was where he belonged with his family. She continued to live in the forest, and as she grew older, she became known as a wise and kind person who would help anyone in need. Years went by, and Parchi grew into a big, strong elephant. He eventually became the leader of his herd, but he never forgot the lessons he had learned from Mia. He taught his own children and grandchildren about the importance of kindness and the value of helping others. As for Mia, she lived a long and fulfilling life, surrounded by animals who loved and respected her. When she passed away, the animals in the forest held a memorial service to honor her memory. They remembered her for her compassion, her bravery, and her friendship with Parchi. In the end, Parchi and Mia's story became more than just a tale of a lost elephant and a young girl. It became a symbol of hope and the power of friendship. And even today, long after Pachi and Mia are gone, their legacy lives on in the hearts of those who remember them. As time went on, the forest changed. The trees grew taller, and the animals that lived there began to interact with humans more frequently. One day, a group of humans arrived in the forest and began to cut down trees to build a new settlement. The animals were scared and didn't know what to do. They had never seen humans before and didn't understand why they were destroying their home. Pachi, who was now an older and wiser elephant, knew that he had to act. He approached the humans and tried to communicate with them, but they didn't seem to understand him. He then remembered the kindness that Mia had shown him all those years ago and decided to find a way to work with the humans to protect the forest. He sought out a young girl who lived in the settlement, hoping that she would be like Mia and help him bridge the gap between humans and animals. The girl's name was Leela, and she was fascinated by Pachi. She listened to him and tried to understand what he was saying. Pachi and Leela worked together to find a way to protect the forest. They came up with a plan to teach the humans about the importance of the forest and the animals that lived there. They organized educational programs and took people on tours of the forest, showing them the beauty and diversity of the ecosystem. Thanks to Pachi and Leela's efforts, the humans began to see the forest in a different light. They realized that they could build their homes and communities without destroying the natural environment around them. Pachi was proud of what he had accomplished, and he knew that Mia would have been proud of him too. He had learned that even the smallest act of kindness could have a big impact, and that by working together, animals and humans could create a better world. Years went by, and Pachi eventually passed away. But his legacy lived on in the forest, where animals and humans continued to work together to protect the environment. And Mia's legacy lived on too, in the hearts and memories of those who remembered her as the kind and brave girl who had saved an elephant's life. As the years passed, Leela grew up to be a young woman. She never forgot the lessons that Pachi had taught her, and she continued to work to protect the forest and its animals. One day, as she was walking through the forest, she came across a group of elephants. They were grazing peacefully, and she recognized one of them as Pachi's great-grandson. She smiled at the memory of Pachi and the adventure they had shared. The elephants seemed to sense her presence, and they approached her curiously. Leela was a little scared at first, but she remembered how gentle Pachi had been and decided to approach them slowly. To her surprise, the elephants seemed to accept her. They allowed her to get closer and closer until she was able to touch one of them. It was an incredible moment for Leela, and she felt a deep connection to the animals and the forest. Over time, Leela became known as the elephant whisperer in the forest. She was able to communicate with the elephants and understand their needs. She worked tirelessly to protect the forest and the animals that lived there, and she became a hero to many. In the end, Pachi and Mia's story had become a part of the fabric of the forest. It was a story that was passed down from generation to generation, a reminder of the power of kindness and the importance of working together to protect the environment. And as long as the forest stood, and the animals roamed free, Pachi and Mia's story would continue to inspire and uplift all those who heard it. As Leela grew older, she decided to dedicate her life to protecting the forest and the animals that lived there. She became a conservationist and worked tirelessly to raise awareness about the importance of preserving the natural environment. She organized protests and campaigns, and she spoke to people all over the world about the need to protect the Earth's ecosystems. Her passion and dedication inspired many, and she became a leading voice in the fight against environmental destruction. One day, while Leela was on a speaking tour in Africa, she received a surprise invitation. It was from a group of elephants who lived in the wild. They had heard about her work and wanted to meet her in person. Leela was overjoyed at the invitation and immediately accepted. She traveled deep into the African wilderness, accompanied by a team of conservationists and scientists. When she arrived, she was greeted by the elephants. They were magnificent creatures, and Leela was humbled by their presence. They seemed to recognize her, and they welcomed her with gentle trunks and rumbling sounds. For several days, Leela lived with the elephants in the wild. She studied their behavior, learned about their habits, and saw firsthand the challenges they faced. She was amazed at the intelligence and complexity of their social structures and felt a deep connection to the animals. When she returned home, Leela knew that she had to do more to protect the elephants and their habitat. She organized a fundraising campaign and raised millions of dollars to support elephant conservation efforts around the world. Thanks to Leela's efforts, the plight of the elephants and the need to protect their habitat became known worldwide. Governments and corporations began to take action, and laws were put in place to protect elephants and their habitat. And so, Pachi and Mia's story continued to inspire people all over the world. It had begun as a tale of a lost elephant and a young girl, but it had grown into something much bigger. It had become a symbol of hope and the power of compassion, and it had shown that even the smallest act of kindness could have a big impact on the world. As Leela continued to work towards protecting the environment, she realized that there was still much to be done. She started to focus on educating children and young people about the importance of protecting the natural world. She created a program that brought children from all over the world to the forest where Pachi and Mia had lived. The children were able to learn about the animals and the environment in a hands-on way. They were able to experience the wonder of the forest and its creatures and understand the importance of preserving it. Leela's program became very popular, and children from all over the world came to participate. It was a life-changing experience for many of them, and they returned home inspired to make a difference in their own communities. One day, as Leela was walking through the forest, she heard a familiar sound. It was the sound of an elephant trumpeting in the distance. She followed the sound until she came across a small clearing. There, she saw a group of elephants, including one that looked very familiar. It was Pachi's great-grandson, the same elephant she had met many years ago. Leela approached him slowly, and to her amazement, the elephant recognized her. He reached out his trunk and touched her face gently. Leela knew then that she was doing the right thing. She had dedicated her life to protecting the environment, and she had inspired others to do the same. The animals of the forest had become her family, and the forest itself was her home. And so, Pachi and Mia's story continued to inspire and uplift people all over the world. It had started as a tale of a lost elephant and a young girl, but it had grown into something much more significant. It had become a testament to the power of compassion, and it had shown that if we work together, we can make a difference in the world. Years passed, and Leela continued to work towards protecting the environment. Her efforts had paid off, and the forest where Pachi and Mia had lived was now thriving. The elephants had a safe home, and their numbers were growing. As Leela walked through the forest one day, she came across a group of young elephants. They were playful and curious, and they surrounded her, nudging her with their trunks. One of the elephants caught her eye. He had a mischievous glint in his eye, and Leela felt an instant connection to him. She named him Jumbo, and he became her constant companion. Leela and Jumbo explored the forest together, and they saw firsthand the impact of her conservation efforts. The trees were taller, the air was fresher, and the animals were thriving. But Leela knew that there was still more work to be done. She continued to educate people about the importance of preserving the environment and inspired them to take action. And so, Leela's legacy continued. Her work had started with a lost elephant and a young girl, but it had grown into something much bigger. It had become a movement to protect the Earth's ecosystems and the creatures that lived there. Years after Leela had passed away, people still remembered her and the impact she had made. The forest where Pachi and Mia had once lived was now a protected area, and the animals that lived there were thriving. And whenever someone saw an elephant in the wild or heard the sound of the wind rustling through the trees, they thought of Leela and the incredible work she had done to protect the environment. Her legacy lived on, inspiring generations to come to protect the natural world. The forest remained a sanctuary for the animals, and the people who came to visit it were inspired by the beauty and wonder of nature. And while there were still challenges to be faced, Lila's vision and dedication had helped pave the way for a better future. One day, as Jumbo and his elephant family roamed the forest, they stumbled upon a group of visitors. Among them was a young girl, with a backpack and a wide smile on her face. Jumbo recognized her instantly. It was the same girl who had saved his life all those years ago. The girl, now a grown woman, approached him and greeted him with a gentle touch. She introduced herself as Sarah, and she explained that she had come back to the forest to pay tribute to the incredible woman who had changed her life. Lila's teachings had inspired Sarah to dedicate her life to conservation, and she had traveled the world, working to protect endangered species and ecosystems. Sarah had come back to the forest to say thank you to Lila and to the elephants who had taught her so much about the importance of protecting the natural world. As Sarah and Jumbo walked through the forest, they talked about Lila's legacy and the impact she had made. They marveled at the majesty of the animals around them and the beauty of the forest. And as they parted ways, Jumbo felt a sense of contentment. He knew that Lila's work had inspired many, and that the forest and its creatures would continue to thrive for generations to come. The lost elephant had found his family, and the girl who had saved his life had gone on to change the world. It was a happy ending to a remarkable story, and it was a testament to the power of compassion and dedication to a cause. Thanks for watching. Please consider subscribing.